Hey there guys, and welcome back to the Motor Gumption YouTube channel with me, Ishmael Barrientos. And this one, what we're going to do is a little bit of an informational kind of video. Now, some of it may be over the top of your heads, and some of it may be the information you guys are looking for. So these are things that you can do to avoid pre-ignition and detonation. All right, those are two different things. And avoid a costly repair bill if you guys blow up your engine. All right guys, so stay tuned. Here we go. Alright guys, if you guys like my channel, you guys like what you see, please like, subscribe, and or share. Okay, any of those three really does help support the channel and helps me grow. I hope to keep this trend going. Alright, so let's keep it up. Now, let's get to it. Alright, I made a big no-no and I destroyed an engine. Now this is not recent, this is about 2 years ago, okay? This is when I was first building my my supercharged Yamaha FC1 and I tried to cut corners. Do not cut corners, okay? You build it right or you build it twice. Okay, I had to remember that one. Anyways, but you build it right or you build it twice, and I had to build it twice. Luckily, I found an engine for about $1,500 that was shipped to Kansas City. So I had to drive another 3 hours to even get this engine. So we have time and money as a problem here. So build it right or build it twice. Now, I will be showing you guys the engine, okay, and I will be showing you guys things that I did and other things you can do to mitigate the probability of pre-ignition and detonation. Okay, now they are two different things. Pre-ignition is what it sounds like. Okay, it is ignition of fuel, pre-ignition of the spark plug. Okay, so that is that. And detonation, okay, is fuel auto-igniting after the spark plug is fired. So you have basically a flame front firing right here where the ignition or the spark plug may be, but then you have fuel over here in the cylinder that auto ignites from extra or too much cylinder pressure as well as heat. So then they will meet each other in the middle. Now, when you have these kind of things, you have something that's called knock. And knock is pretty much the thunder to the lightning, okay? You are going to hear the aftermath of what is happening. It basically sounds like a ball peen hammer hitting... Really, dog?
No! You threw off my groove!
You're basically going to hear a ball peen hammer hitting metal or metal on metal, and that's basically the harmonics of the materials vibrating inside of the engine, okay? These are not good things. This is detrimental to bearings, to material, to just the overall form of an engine, okay? It will deteriorate and destroy your engine. So these are things that you can do to avoid pre-ignition and detonation. I will be saying those two words very much in this. Okay, so sorry in advance for that. Now, let's go ahead and get to it, guys. Let's look at that engine, and then we're gonna get on things that I did to avoid those things. Here we go. Alrighty, well, I don't like showing people this, but I'm gonna do it for a learning experience, guys. Alright, this right here is actually the original engine that came out of my FC1. Now, this is why you do not cut corners, okay? So if you look here, that right there is a hole literally burned into the piston, okay? And there is another one right there, starting up, starting on another cylinder in there. Bad lighting in there, but trust me, it's there. And yep, unfortunately starting in all four pistons. Now, this was a $1,400 mistake that will never be made again. Now, what caused it? Well, we're going to get into that, and this is why you do not cut corners. Okay, so you guys seen the damage and that toasty engine, and the main factors were too hot of heat range on the spark plug, okay? Then I had crappy 91 octane fuel, all right? And then also I had high compression, which high compression was probably the biggest factor on that engine getting the damage that it received. And so basically what I did was, on my personal build, I went ahead and changed that. I put one stage colder spark plugs. I started using Boostane, which is an octane additive, which is a gasoline additive to raise the octane, I should say. And then I also changed the compression ratio of my engine by using a thicker head gasket. Now on motorcycles, you're more likely to have a bigger change on your compression ratio because they're smaller displacements than you would a car engine. All right, but the fact is that it does work with motorcycle engines, and you can effectively lower your compression ratio to help any and all boosts that you plan on running. So let's go ahead and start off with the first thing that you can change, and here we have Boostane. So this is a octane additive that you can use directly into your fuel system. All right, this raises your gas whole points. Okay. So at the pump it says 91, 93, all right, this will raise it to, 94, 96, 98, wherever you want it. The max that you can get out of a can, which is 116 octane, but it only treats 1 gallon. So this is where that becomes a non-cost effective product once you go for the higher. But, so don't trust the snake oils that you see at AutoZone and I should say O'Reilly's and stuff like that. There is one I've seen out there. It's called, but it's made by VP. It's called Madditive. All right, that's actually a decent one, but you still don't have the concentration of MMT that this can right here does, which MMT is the actual ingredient in this that raises your octane. Now, guys, remember, octane does not give you power. It can with tuning. All right, so you can raise your boost with higher octane. You can advance your ignition timing. So that's where you're gonna get power. Octane is the resistance to ignition, okay? So the more heat, the more compression that you add into a cylinder, if that octane, that fuel, all right, is higher octane, it will resist pre-ignition a lot better, okay? Now, this can right here will increase 91, which is what I have here, all right, which it'll increase the 91 octane to 98 octane, all right? One whole 32 ounces of this will treat up to 35 gallons. Now, my motorcycle has a 4.9 gallon tank, so this is pretty much 5 fill up, all right? That's not horrible. But that's correct. Yeah, my math is right. No, sorry, that is 7 fill-ups. All right, so I can fill up my tank. All right, 7 times, and get it to 98 octane with just this one can. All right, and what I do is I usually get a 5-gallon jug to make sure that my my gas is always correct on octane. And I'm not just throwing in a random amount of Boostane. What I do is I fill this up for 5 gallons, and then I add the amount that I need in here for that. So 32 divided by 7, and then that treats 5 gallons. So that's what I do. Not only that, let's talk about fuels. If you want to avoid pre-ignition and detonation, what you can do is you can use VP race fuels, Sunco race fuels. You can get some stuff that's high in octane, okay? That's gonna be a good replacement for Boostane, but you're gonna have cost issues because the stuff is expensive. You have to buy it in 5-gallon barrels, or 5-gallon pails, or 50-gallon drums, or go to a racetrack or a supplier. All right, so that gets expensive, and I can use directly pump gas with Boostane. That's the good stuff that's the good, I guess, factor on using Boostane. All right, so we have those 2 things that you can do to eliminate pre-ignition and detonation. The next thing is for motorcycles, not so much on cars. You can, and it will lower your compression ratio, but just not drastically as it will on a motorcycle, is use a thicker head gasket. So this one right here is going to be going on the raffle build, guys. And the stock head gasket is, I believe it was 32 thousandths thick. This one is 69 thousandths, okay? Now, I did this on my personal build. It worked wonders. It lowered it effectively to a 9.8 compression ratio, all right, opposed to the 11.5 to 1, which really changes the whole dynamic of the cylinders, okay? You don't want to go too thick with your head gasket because you're going to start changing your quench, and your quench is pretty much, if this is your cylinder jug where your pistons are going up and down, this is your head on top. There's the quench area, which is basically that space in between the crown of the piston, okay, and your cylinder. I guess you say combustion chamber. Okay, so when I talk about changing the compression stroke or the compression of the engine, I'm talking about static compression, which is basically the sweeping stroke of the piston from bottom dead center to top dead center, okay? Dynamic compression is basically the sweeping stroke from when the valve, the intake valve, closes to top dead center. Okay, so we're actually talking about static compression, not dynamic compression, all right? And do not confuse those with cylinder pressure, okay? Cylinder pressure is basically that is the cumulative pressure in the cylinder, which changes all the time from actually intake to exhaust to combustion, all right, depending on the RPM, the cam lobe, all those factors in for cylinder pressure. So do not confuse those. We are talking about static compression when we're talking about changing out the head gasket, okay? Now, the other way that you can change your compression is using a lower base gasket, which is below the cylinders or the cylinder jug, okay? So once you get to high boost on an engine, you can avoid using a head gasket to make sure that you have the most minimal amount of surface area that the pressure inside the combustion chamber is pushing against, okay? Because you don't want to run too thick of this. So if you're running 25 pounds of boost, the thicker this goes, the more surface area that pressure can blow through, okay? You don't want that. So if you're pushing, 20, 25 pounds, you might want to get away from a thicker head gasket and go with pistons and or a base gasket. So that's what this is. This is going to be going on my Yamaha FZ1 once it goes turbo. I will be using a thicker base gasket, which the original one is 10 thousandths thick. This one right here is 60 thousandths. So we are effectively 600 plus % of the base gasket. Coupled with low compression pistons, I'll be running 9.5 to 1 compression ratio. So that's really going to help out with pre-ignition and or detonation. So, like I said, a thicker base gasket on your motorcycle engine, okay, cars, you guys are kind of screwed on that one, coupled with lower compression pistons. So let me show you. Now, originally I was not going to show these until some of the parts reveal on my motorcycle, but might as well go ahead and show it now. Now, you've seen what the other pistons look like in the bike, right, or in that engine. They're toasty and, well, they're kind of ugly. The bad thing is these are gorgeous and they'll never be seen by anybody. So I guess I can go ahead and show them now. So here is the piston, the JE low compression piston, specially made for this motorcycle. Now this gold top right here is actually a ceramic coat, which helps thermodynamics. It keeps all the heat on top of the piston as best as possible, and actually it helps push it out through the exhaust in a better fashion. So that's what this is. This is pretty cheap to do to your pistons, so I recommend if you're going to go with aftermarket pistons, go ahead and do this. I believe it's only a thou and a half thick, so you're not really adding a lot of material there. But, so this right here, which is a lower compression piston, you can see how it's dished right here. There is material missing. Effectively, what that does is lower the compression because you have now more air that can take up this volume inside the cylinder, and you are lowering your compression ratio. So I will be using this thicker base gasket with a stock head gasket and, of course, these pistons. So JE has a good deal, and they come with your wrist pins for your piston, all right, as well as all your rings needed for the piston as well. Comes with your oil rings and your compression rings, which is really nice. Got these on a very good deal. Could not say no. Okay, so we have now, actually I'm gonna go ahead and leave this out for visuals. All right, so we have basically came up with, you can add an octane additive to raise the octane. You can lower the compression of your motorcycle engine and or car engine, just not effectively as much as in a car, with a thicker head gasket, a thicker base gasket, and or some fancy dancy pistons. All right, what next do we have on the list? Okay, so I know I'm a little bit out of order on this one, but also let's talk about the very basics you can do before doing any kind of mods on how to make sure your engine's running right. Make sure your air-fuel ratios are correct. And how do you do that? Okay, well, you can run a AFR gauge, all right? That's going to show your air-fuel ratio running a wideband O2 sensor, which that's a little bit over the top unless you're going boost turbo, nitrous oxide, something like that. But go to the dyno and make sure you get a dyno tune. Do not try to do it yourself unless you're absolutely sure you can do it and you're just somebody who's self-taught. On a motorcycle, you're going to have very big problems because you need to monitor it instantly and make changes, stop, go, stop, go. It's hard to do that when you're riding a bike. On a car, that's a little different. So go to a dyno, a reputable tuner, all right, and get that sucker tuned before even touching stuff like this. Okay, I should have started off with that. All right, so if you guys do anything, don't say, hey, that guy said it. That guy said go do this. All right, just go to a tuner first, get those things done. Get your AFR changed, get your map changed and everything. If you're gonna do boost or supercharged, turbo, anything like that, nitrous oxide, then these things can come into play. Now, when I did do my Boostane measurements, I did use an actual measuring tool to make sure I'm using the right amount of ounces for whatever gallons that I do need. I usually go by 5 gallons at a time. So that is that. Now, another thing that I do change, like I said before, is spark plugs, all right? So I actually did just go get some new spark plugs for the raffle build. And this one is the old spark plug, okay? Hopefully this thing actually even, it's not wanting to do it. Oh, gotta cover my face, right? There it is. So as long as I cover my face, it will. So I did go and I did get some new spark plugs for the raffle build. Okay, so this is what that looks like. This is the new one, and this is the old one. Okay, there are some differences here as far as the tip. All right, this one will have 2 paths of spark opposed to a 1 path of spark. So if one were to foul out, it has one more direction that it can jump spark to ignite the fuel. Now, what I did do is I went on this build, it only needed to be 1 stage colder. Sometimes you don't need to change them, but these engines, anybody who owns an FZ1 or a Yamaha in general, they run hot, okay? They run pretty toasty, all right? You guys will feel that on your legs in the summers. But I went ahead and only did a 1 stage colder, as well as changed the electrodes to a 2-prong instead of a 1-prong for your for a second path of ignition. Now, I will say this one right here is a CR9E, and this is a CR9EK. So that K indicates that second one, and the 10 on the NGK spark plugs, what that is basically telling is that the higher the number on the plug, the colder the range. Now that doesn't seem to make sense, right? You think the higher the number, the hotter the plug. Not on NGK. Now every spark plug brand or every brand has a different method to their madness, and I will show you a picture here so you can see by the Bosch, the Denso, and the Champions as well, that they each have their range depending on that number on going hotter or colder. So, but there's many factors into what makes a hotter or colder plug. So you have surface area, you have the isolator nose. Does it protrude more into the cylinder or into the plug? Okay, so that is a heating element. Basically, you want to get that away from the cylinder, inside the cylinder to eliminate heat. You also have the core. What kind of material is it made out of? Is it made out of copper, which is the best heating or best to dissipate heat. And also you guys have to think about coolant. Okay, so the more surface area that this makes inside of your head, depending on how they design it, the better it's going to transfer heat to your coolant. All right, now like I said, there's multiple things, but this is only a 1-stage colder plug, because if you do get too cold of a plug, what happens is it doesn't get hot enough to burn off any of the carbon that builds up here. Too much carbon on the end of your spark plug is going to end up fouling it, and then you're going to have to change your plugs a lot sooner. Not that they don't work, but you will have to change them a lot sooner. Too hot, and you're going to start running into preignition and detonation issues. So there is a double-edged sword there, guys. So you have to make sure you have the right heat range as well as the right spark plug for your needs. Okay, so we have colder plugs on the menu for eliminating pre-ignition, and detonation. So what is next that we can do minus all these things and the tune? All right, now if you're gonna go boosted, don't judge me on this because this is actually not the prettiest intercooler, but you have an intercooler, okay? Not the prettiest welds, but they do seal, and that's what matters here. This is an air-to-air intercooler, which means that the air passing over these fins effectively cools the air that travels into and out of this coolant, or this intercooler. Now, this is specifically made for a motorcycle. I will be getting a grinder on this because a grinder makes me the welder that I am not, okay? And there's a better saying out there for that. I just can't remember at this time. Anyways, so like I said, the air passing through these fins right here will cool the air that travels into these channels and out through this one, all right? So we have an air-to-air intercooler. That is one way to help cool the air, which effectively will lower the temperatures inside the combustion chamber. All right, the lower the air temp inside there, the lower chance unwanted knock. And remember, guys, knock is the thunder to the lightning. All right, knock is the aftermath and what you're hearing from detonation and or pre-ignition. Cooling your charge temp. If you cool the air before it enters the cylinder, effectively you'll have a cooler cylinder temperature as the air is getting compressed before ignition. All right, the next thing is an air-to-water intercooler. All right, so this is where you're getting to the big boys. This is an air-to-water intercooler, so this is where your air comes in and your air goes out. You have a port here and a port here for water. So this has water channels on the inside. I don't know if you can actually see inside there. You can see the fins that the air travels through. But the water runs off your cooling system. Some of them actually have their own separate cooling system or water supply. Water goes through, goes and chills those fins. The air goes through and hits those fins, all right, lowering the temperature of the charged air. Once it hits your cylinders, you have a lower air temp that'll help battle pre-ignition and detonation. All right, guys, so here is another option that you guys can use to battle, oh man, ignition or pre-ignition and detonation. Now, this one may seem a little shocking. For some of you, you already know what it is. And I'm just going to show you the jug, all right, because this is pretty much the, and some people call this the Band-Aid, all right, to performance engines. And I wouldn't say it's the Band-Aid. This is something you can use, but there are some problems that may occur only if you do not make sure your system is up to par, okay, and well maintained. So here you go, windshield wiper fluid. Yes, windshield wiper fluid is, and this is the blue stuff, all right, you have to be sure to use the right stuff, and I will tell you what this actually goes in and how to use it. Give me a second. So windshield wiper fluid, it has to be the blue kind, all right, that does not have any other chemicals, compounds, solutions, or cleaning agents, all right. It has to be the -20, all right, degrees Fahrenheit type. This will indicate that it has 30% methanol, all right, and 70% water. Now, what is this guy talking about? Why is he holding up this stuff? How can this help my engine? Fireworks, guys, they're still blowing them up. Now, the thing is, this will go with your methanol or water and methanol injection kit. Yes, you can go to Quick Trip, you can go to the gas station, you can go to any kind of hardware store, get this stuff right here. If you have a water or a water methanol injection kit on your supercharged or your turbocharged car, you can use this stuff right here. Now, some people run 50-50, some people run straight methanol injection into the car to lower their temps. All right, so now with the water and methanol injection brought into the picture, I'll try not to get too nerdy with you because there's a lot of chemistry that goes here. There is a lot of knowledge that needs to be known with this. Now this is great for supercharged and turbocharged engines. What this effectively does, it'll lower your charge temp, okay? Doing so, it'll make your temp denser, okay? Or make your air charge denser, which will also help spool up your supercharger or your turbo faster. The other part is the water will basically turn to steam, and it'll clean your engine, okay? So your valves and your combustion chamber will be actually cleaner from using this, so you'll have less carbon deposits built up, so that's a plus for you. Effectively, it will also clean your spark plugs, so you might have a tad bit longer life, not from the cleaning, but just so they won't foul out from carbon buildup. Okay, now if you're using water methanol injection, you also have to think about air to fuel ratios, because the methanol will start acting like a fuel and it can actually richen up your ratios. So you have to take that into account. Some people run straight methanol, but you have to be careful because methanol has such a low flash point of 54 degrees Fahrenheit, but it has an auto ignite of a pretty low amount too, that they also suggest that you have it mixed. All right, so water and methanol is 100% soluble, so they make a perfect mix without any kind of separations within a container or separation of themselves, like oil and water. They will separate themselves. This one, they mix up pretty good. You don't even have to shake it. All right, now there are a few manufacturers that make water methanol injection kits, like this one right here. I have a few parts that comprised of my personal kit that I have not used yet. This one is an AEM kit. All right, this is the control module. This is the start PSI. As you can see, this is a start PSI that you want it. So if I wanted the methanol injection to start kicking in at 4 PSI and I want it to be 100% ramped up, just spewing as much as I can at 20 PSI. That's what this is for. It has an internal map sensor, so you have a vacuum. You have a vacuum line that goes here with a map sensor in there, so it tells it, okay, I'm at 4 PSI. Start your progressive flow at 4 PSI, and once 20 PSI is hit with the map sensor sensing that, it'll be at 100% flow. All right, so you have all your wires there. Also, I mean, they come. This one, I had a custom tank that I ordered so I can fit it on the motorcycle without being too ugly. This is not a AEM pump. This is a Devil's Own pump, okay? This is a high flow pump. It does max pressure is 300 PSI. At 10 amps, it'll have 200 PSI inside the line. So I basically pieced this kit together for the best of what it can be. I mean, I had, you know, stainless lines. Then you have your fittings, AEM fittings. I have a a regulator right here. Basically, this is an electronic regulator. And then I went with another brand of ProMeth for my nozzle. So this right here atomizes the solution into the charge pipe. Some people will actually spray this pre-turbo, so it actually goes into the fins, so you have to make sure that this stays atomized or start damaging the turbo fins. So there are some good and bad to the water methanol injection. The good is that it does amazing, all right? So it lowers your temperatures. It actually raises your octane too, by the way. So this does two things, lowers temps and raise octane, all right? And pretty much it's indefinite octane depending on how much water you use, all right? I believe it's Snow Performance makes one. It's called Boost Juice. It is a 50-50 mix, so 50% methanol, 50% water. Now, also, the thing about the steam, it almost acts as a train. So you have a steam-powered train, high torque. Now, this isn't with everything, but they have seen that with the steam burning or the steam pressure, it actually acts like a train, which it pushes the piston down. You can actually see increases of torque from that. But like I said, this is not about increasing your horsepower. This is effectively on eliminating pre-detonation and knock. Now, with all these said, with lowering your temperatures, lowering your compression, and raising your octane, you can gain more horsepower, okay, through tuning. All right, you have to either raise your boost pressures from the turbo supercharger, or you have to also add timing, okay? So you can add timing. I'm talking about ignition timing, guys. You can add ignition timing to your setup, and you will have a lot more, you'll get some gains from that as well. Or if you really want to be on the risky side, you can, lowering your temperatures and raising your octane, you can lean out your fuel mixture some, which is not what I would do, but some engines run a little stronger with a leaner fuel mixture, okay? So, that's what I got for you guys right now. You have your water methanol injection, air to water intercooler, air to air intercooler, Boostane to raise your octane. You can run race fuels. You can lower your compression via piston, a head gasket, a base gasket, and you can change to a colder spark plug. All these things are options that you can do to have the best performing engine without acquiring knock and or pre-ignition, okay? Or detonation and or pre-ignition. Woo, that was a lot of information. So I hope you guys stuck with me there, even though some of that stuff can be a little nerdy, a little geeky on the gearhead side, all right? There are some things I did not touch up on, you know, like maybe some a freer flowing exhaust. You know, some people do intake mods and then they have more air going in, but they have the same exhaust flowing, trying to expel those extra gases out, and it doesn't work. So, you know, look into some of those some of the exhaust mods, you know, like eliminating cats, free flowing header, freer, can't even talk right now, freer flowing exhaust in general, okay? Now, for those of you guys who are not new to the channel, thank you for the support, and for those of you who are here for the information, if you guys have not seen, I've been doing a raffle build for charity, all right, guys? I am building a supercharged FZ1. It's a Yamaha FZ1, all right? And after that is said and done and built, we will be raffling off. All the profits will be going to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, all right? So it's for a good cause. If you guys like what you see, please like, subscribe, or share. I said that again, yes, sorry. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.